The construction of a third temple in Jerusalem is a pivotal aspect of biblical prophecy, signifying the anticipated return of Jesus Christ. In Israel, a movement is underway to actualize this vision, raising questions about its historical and contentious nature. This iconic building holds deep significance for the global Jewish community, representing a historic and sacred space for worship, rooted in ancient times. The Third Temple in Judaism represents a future vision of a new temple in Jerusalem, rooted in religious beliefs and prophecies. It symbolizes divine presence, fulfills eschatological expectations, and restores a central place of worship, contributing to the spiritual and historical identity of the Jewish faith. However, the recent decision by the Jewish community to proceed with the construction of the Third Temple has profound implications, intertwining faith, history, and geopolitics. This momentous choice stems from years of dedication, reflecting a deep commitment to religious fulfillment and a testament to the Jewish community's resilience. In Jewish theology, the Third Temple holds a sacred place, symbolizing the final stage in the prophetic redemption process and signifying the return of the Jewish people to their spiritual roots. However, this decision is not made in isolation, but has far-reaching consequences tied to the Muslim community's perspective, particularly concerning the Temple Mount. This sacred site, known as Haram al-Sharif in Arabic, carries immense significance for both Jewish and Muslim communities, serving as a focal point of religious and cultural identity. The complex and multifaceted perspective of the Muslim community on the reconstruction of the Third Temple is deeply rooted in historical and religious connections to the site. The Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam, currently stands on the Temple Mount, adding layers of historical and religious complexity to the matter. The Muslim community expresses concerns that alterations to the site could disrupt the delicate status quo, potentially leading to tensions and conflicts. This underscores the intricate interplay of narratives and beliefs surrounding the Temple Mount, where each stone carries layers of history and spirituality for both communities. In response to the Jewish decision, the Muslim community has taken measured actions, engaging in peaceful protests, community meetings, and diplomatic efforts. These actions highlight the importance of dialogue and negotiation in addressing this sensitive and complex issue. Calls for peaceful dialogue and mutual respect from various Muslim groups and leaders emphasize the need for understanding the deep-seated beliefs associated with the Temple Mount. Within the expansive tapestry of Christian perspectives, the concept of the Third Temple is woven with intricate threads of theological interpretation, biblical prophecy, and eschatological anticipation. For a considerable segment of Christians, the Third Temple is not merely a physical structure, but a harbinger of profound significance, intimately connected to the intricate mosaic of biblical predictions. The foundational basis for this anticipation lies in various biblical passages, particularly those found in the Old and New Testaments. In the Old Testament, the construction and significance of the original temples in Jerusalem are extensively detailed. Solomon's Temple, a marvel of biblical architecture, is particularly revered, housing the Ark of the Covenant and standing as a central place of worship. The subsequent destruction of this temple and its later reconstruction, known as the Second Temple, are significant historical events that find resonance in Christian understanding. The New Testament, especially in the book of Revelation, contributes significantly to Christian views on the Third Temple. The imagery and symbolism in Revelation depict a vision of a new heaven and a new earth, where a temple is described. In Revelation 11:1-2, there is a mention of measuring the temple of God, and some Christian interpreters associate this with the idea of a third temple. Theologians and scholars across various denominations delve into these passages, seeking to unravel the metaphorical and apocalyptic layers that characterize the book. For some Christian denominations, the anticipation of the Third Temple is intricately linked to end-time scenarios and the second coming of Christ. They perceive the rebuilding of the temple as a precursor to the fulfillment of prophetic events, leading to the ultimate culmination of history. This perspective draws from a complex web of biblical passages, such as Daniel's prophecies and Jesus' discourse on the end times in the Gospels, Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. Conversely, other Christian groups may adopt a more nuanced stance, emphasizing spiritual and metaphorical interpretations over a literal rebuilding of the temple. They see the fulfillment of these prophecies in the person and work of Jesus Christ, considering the church itself as the spiritual temple, with believers as living stones, 4 Peter 2:5. This perspective underscores a shift from a physical structure to a spiritual reality, with Christ being the focal point rather than a rebuilt temple in Jerusalem. Turn your hearts to the book of Daniel, where visions and revelations foretell the rebuilding of the sanctuary. In Daniel 9:27 it is written, "And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the offering to cease." This covenant, some believe, marks the beginning of a pivotal period, a time of tribulation and testing as the divine plan unfolds. The Temple Mount, once again adorned with a new temple, becomes a symbol of God's faithfulness and the fulfillment of prophecy. As we journey further into the pages of Revelation, the apocalyptic visions of the Apostle John beckon us. In Revelation 11:1-2, we glimpse a vision of a measuring rod, symbolizing the consecration of the temple. Then I was given a measuring rod like a staff, and I was told, "Rise and measure the temple of God and the altar and those who worship there, but do not measure the court outside the temple. Leave that out, for it is given over to the nations." This sacred act of measurement speaks to the divine distinction and sanctification of this holy place. The third temple, standing tall and resplendent, is a beacon of hope, a signpost on the road to the grand culmination of history. For the dispensationalist and premillennialist, the rebuilding of the Temple Mount is intricately woven into the fabric of eschatological beliefs. It heralds the arrival of a future Antichrist, a period of tribulation, and the ultimate triumph of our Lord Jesus Christ. The temple's construction is seen as a prelude to the Second Coming, a momentous event that will usher in a literal 1,000-year reign of Christ on earth. Within the Jewish community, the prospect of rebuilding the Third Temple in Jerusalem is a subject of great anticipation and religious significance. For many, this concept is intricately tied to the fulfillment of prophetic scriptures, the restoration of ancient Jewish traditions, and the initiation of the Messianic era. The Third Temple is seen as a symbolic and tangible representation of God's presence among His people. The Ark of the Covenant, believed to be lost during historical events like the Babylonian exile, is anticipated to resurface in conjunction with the reconstruction of the temple. This vision aligns with the spiritual and historical identity of Judaism, fostering a deep sense of connection to sacred traditions. Despite the overarching enthusiasm, it's essential to recognize the diversity of perspectives within the Jewish community regarding the urgency and feasibility of rebuilding the temple. While some fervently advocate for its reconstruction as a central element in the unfolding of divine promises, others may approach the idea with caution or skepticism. Factors such as theological interpretation, geopolitical considerations, and practical challenges contribute to the spectrum of opinions within the Jewish populace. Conversations and debates surrounding the Third Temple reflect the ongoing dialogue within Judaism, where believers navigate the intersection of faith, tradition, and contemporary realities. As with any religious or historical topic, attitudes within the Jewish community remain dynamic, shaped by a complex interplay of individual beliefs, communal discussions, and the broader cultural context. The Temple Mount in Jerusalem holds immense religious significance in Islam, encompassing the iconic structures of the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque. Embedded within Islamic tradition, these sites are revered as crucial elements of religious history and spirituality. The Dome of the Rock is believed to mark the spot from which the Prophet Muhammad ascended to the heavens during the night journey, making it one of the holiest places in Islam. Al-Aqsa Mosque, considered the third holiest site, holds historical and religious importance as a site of prayer and worship. The concept of a third temple in itself may not necessarily be objectionable to all Muslims. However, the potential ramifications of its construction, especially if it involves alterations to the existing Islamic holy sites on the Temple Mount, evoke deep concerns within the Muslim community. The sensitivity of the matter lies in the fear of displacement or modification of structures integral to Islamic history and faith. Any proposed changes to the status quo on the Temple Mount have historically triggered strong reactions from Muslims worldwide, reflecting the profound emotional and religious attachment to these sacred sites. The issue extends beyond a mere physical transformation. It resonates with the broader geopolitical context and the complex interplay of religious, historical, and national identities. The Temple Mount holds not only religious significance, but also plays a central role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Consequently, any attempts to alter the status quo on this contested ground have the potential to inflame tensions and provoke reactions, not only within the region but also on the global stage. The Temple Mount, a site of great religious significance for both Jews and Muslims, has been a long-standing flashpoint in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, contributing to tensions and disputes between the two communities. At the heart of the matter is the religious and historical connection each group holds to the site. For Jews, the Temple Mount is the holiest place, believed to be the location of the first and second temples, central to ancient Jewish worship. The Western Wall, a remnant of the Second Temple, is a place of deep spiritual reverence. Jewish aspirations for the construction of a third temple, however, are met with resistance from Muslims due to the presence of the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque on the same site. For Muslims, the Temple Mount is known as Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, housing the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque. In Islam, the Dome of the Rock is believed to mark the spot from which the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. Al-Aqsa Mosque is considered the third holiest site in Islam. Any perceived threat to the sanctity or control of these sites raises intense concerns and stirs emotions among Muslims worldwide. The complexities surrounding the Temple Mount have fueled tensions, leading to numerous incidents of violence and clashes over the years. Changes in the status quo, including alterations to access, prayer rights, or perceived provocations, often trigger unrest. The site has been a focal point for protests and confrontations, exacerbating the broader Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Attempts to address these tensions and find a resolution are complicated by the political and historical context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The competing national and religious narratives add layers of complexity to the issue. International efforts to broker peace and manage the delicate balance on the Temple Mount persist, but a comprehensive and lasting solution remains elusive. The tensions over the Temple Mount reflect not only the religious significance of the site, but also the broader struggle for control, identity, and sovereignty in the region. Until a comprehensive resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is achieved, the Temple Mount is likely to remain a potent symbol and source of contention, reflecting the intricate interplay of religion, politics, and history in the Middle East. It's crucial to note that the international community has refrained from officially recognizing any singular sovereignty over Jerusalem, primarily due to the contentious and conflicting territorial claims between Israel and the Palestinian National Authority. The status of Jerusalem has long been a focal point in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, with both parties aspiring to claim the city as their capital. This lack of international consensus on Jerusalem's sovereignty reflects the sensitivity of the issue, and the recognition that its final status should be determined through negotiations between the involved parties. Various United Nations resolutions have emphasized the need for a two-state solution, with East Jerusalem as the capital of a future Palestinian state, alongside Israel. The status of Jerusalem has been a core component of peace talks, and its resolution remains a central challenge in achieving a comprehensive and lasting peace agreement. The absence of clear international recognition of sovereignty over Jerusalem underscores the complex and multifaceted nature of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. As diplomatic efforts continue, the question of Jerusalem's status remains a critical element in shaping the contours of a potential resolution and the establishment of two states living side by side in peace. The construction and dedication of Solomon's Temple marked a monumental undertaking in ancient Israel, not devoid of debates and logistical challenges. Described in intricate detail within the biblical narrative, the construction process involved the coordination of skilled labor, procurement of resources, and meticulous planning among the Israelites. However, as the grandeur of the temple became manifest, so did debates surrounding religious practices and fidelity to monotheistic principles during the First Temple period. The sanctuary, while intended for the worship of the one true God, experienced periods of idolatry and religious deviation. Kings such as Josiah, upon discovering the neglect of monotheistic principles, 2 Kings 22:23, instigated reforms to purify the worship at the temple. These reforms aimed at restoring the temple to its intended purpose, addressing theological debates and reinforcing the commitment to monotheism. The First Temple era was also marked by prophetic critique, as figures like Jeremiah and Isaiah delivered messages challenging the moral conduct of the people and addressing social injustices. These prophetic warnings and critiques often sparked debates and conflicts between the religious authorities and the prophetic figures. Jeremiah, for instance, condemned the corruption within the religious establishment and warned of divine judgment if moral conduct did not improve. The clash between these prophetic messages and the religious status quo resulted in disputes over the interpretation of divine will, societal values, and the proper function of the temple in fostering spiritual and ethical living. In the midst of these debates and reformations, the first temple stood as a physical and spiritual anchor for the Israelites, a place of worship and divine encounter. Its history, characterized by a dynamic interplay of construction challenges, religious conflicts, and prophetic critiques, shaped the religious landscape of ancient Israel. Ultimately, the first temple's fate was intertwined with the broader historical and geopolitical forces, leading to its destruction by the Babylonians in 586 BCE. The legacy of Solomon's temple endured through subsequent generations, influencing religious thought and practices, and laying the groundwork for the aspirations and challenges that would define the construction and history of the Second Temple. The construction of the Second Temple, a pivotal undertaking following the Babylonian exile, was fraught with challenges that triggered intricate debates about its design, scale, and the extent of involvement of various groups in the rebuilding process. The returnees, led by Zerubbabel, faced opposition from factions nostalgic for the grandeur of Solomon's temple, adding a layer of complexity to the reconstruction efforts. Ezra 3:10-13. As the Second Temple rose, it became a focal point for religious and political intrigues, especially during the Hellenistic and Seleucid period. Debates surfaced regarding the influence of Hellenistic culture and attempts to Hellenize Jewish practices. This cultural and religious tension ultimately fueled the Maccabean Revolt from 167 to 160 BCE, a response to the perceived threats to Jewish identity and religious autonomy. Sectarian conflicts further characterized the era of the Second Temple, witnessing the emergence of diverse Jewish sects, including the Pharisees, Sadducees, and Essenes. These groups held contrasting views on religious practices, the interpretation of the law, and the role of the priesthood, contributing to a multifaceted religious landscape. Disputes between these sects added complexity to the religious discourse, reflecting diverse theological perspectives within the Jewish community. The Second Temple period also unfolded against the backdrop of Roman rule, ushering in a new set of disputes between the Jewish population and Roman authorities. Roman procurators' imposition and interference in religious matters exacerbated tensions, leading to widespread unrest. These conflicts eventually culminated in the First Jewish-Roman War, culminating in the tragic destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE. The temple's demise symbolized not only the physical destruction of a sacred structure, but also the culmination of a complex historical and religious narrative that had been shaped by debates, conflicts, and the interplay of various cultural, political, and religious forces. The legacy of the Second Temple persisted in the collective memory of the Jewish people, influencing subsequent religious thought and practices, and contributing to the ongoing historical and theological significance of Jerusalem. The concept of building a third temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem has been a contentious issue, particularly in relation to the existing structures revered in Islam. Muslims contest the notion of the Third Temple, primarily due to the presence of the Dome of the Rock, a significant Islamic shrine built by the Umayyad Caliphate in the 7th century. The Dome of the Rock stands on the same site believed by Jews to be the location of Solomon's Temple and the Second Temple. This architectural and religious overlay has intensified tensions, as the Dome of the Rock is considered one of the holiest sites in Islam. For Muslims, any proposal to build a third temple raises concerns about the potential displacement or alteration of the Dome of the Rock and the nearby Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam. The Temple Mount, known as Haram al-Sharif in Islam, holds profound historical and religious significance, and any perceived threats to the existing structures on the site evoke strong reactions within the Muslim community. The contestation over the Third Temple is thus intricately linked to the historical and religious layers that define the Temple Mount. The complex interplay of narratives, theological beliefs, and territorial claims underscores the challenges of finding a resolution that accommodates the diverse perspectives of different religious communities in the region. The existence of the Dome of the Rock remains a focal point in the ongoing discussions and disputes surrounding the aspirations for a third temple. A prevailing sentiment among religious Jews centers around the deep-seated desire to witness the construction of a third temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Rooted in religious beliefs, this aspiration is closely tied to biblical prophecies and the restoration of a central place of worship for the Jewish community. Many religious Jews view the establishment of the Third Temple as a crucial step in the fulfillment of messianic promises and the reconnection with sacred traditions that trace back to the First and Second Temples. The anticipation for the construction of the Third Temple represents a profound spiritual longing, embodying the hope for divine presence and a symbolic reunification of the Jewish people with their historical and religious roots. While this desire is fervently held by a significant segment of the religious Jewish community, it is important to note that opinions may vary within the broader Jewish population, with differing perspectives on the timing, feasibility, and implications of rebuilding the temple on the Temple Mount. The desire for the construction of a third temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem is not as universally shared among religious Christians as it is among some religious Jews. While there are certainly Christians who interpret biblical prophecies in a way that suggests the rebuilding of the temple is a significant event tied to end-time scenarios and the second coming of Christ, views on this matter can vary widely within the Christian community. Some Christian denominations and individuals emphasize spiritual and metaphorical interpretations of biblical prophecies, viewing the significance of the temple in a broader context rather than anticipating a literal reconstruction. They may focus on the spiritual fulfillment of these prophecies through the person and work of Jesus Christ. On the other hand, certain Christian groups, particularly those within dispensationalist and premillennialist traditions, do express a desire to see the third temple built. For them, the construction of the temple is often associated with specific interpretations of biblical passages, especially in the books of Daniel and Revelation, where the rebuilding of the temple is seen as a precursor to the fulfillment of eschatological events. In the ever-evolving landscape of Jerusalem, the endeavor to construct the third temple stands as a dynamic process, engaging both the local community in Israel and the broader international arena. Meticulous planning is currently underway, as architects and historians collaborate with precision to draft blueprints that will capture the grandeur of the original edifice. However, this path to construction is not without diplomatic challenges, with ongoing negotiations involving the Muslim community and other stakeholders playing a pivotal role in determining the temple's fate. Amidst setbacks, the Jewish community has demonstrated admirable resilience, overcoming protests and legal challenges to secure crucial funding and support for the construction. As preparations for potential construction intensify, archaeologists, historians, and religious scholars tirelessly delve into the annals of history, ensuring that accuracy and respect for the historical and sacred nature of the Temple Mount are paramount considerations. Yet, the Temple Mount remains a symbol of faith amidst controversy, as various groups assert claims and rights, reflecting the intricate interplay of historical and religious narratives. The journey toward the construction of the Third Temple unfolds against the backdrop of uncertainty, with its future hanging in the balance. The global community closely watches these developments, recognizing the unfolding narrative as an intersection of faith, history, and politics. This complex tapestry continues to weave itself as the shared interests and concerns of diverse communities are brought to the forefront. Despite the inherent challenges, each step taken brings the situation closer to a resolution, and the future of the Third Temple emerges as a globally significant narrative, resonating with a multitude of perspectives and shaping the course of history in the heart of Jerusalem. The journey towards the reconstruction of the Third Temple is progressing amidst contestation and dialogue. It serves as a symbol of our collective striving for understanding, coexistence, and mutual respect. As we continue to unravel the mystery of the Third Temple, we are reminded of the power of faith and the complexity of religious coexistence. This is a story we will continue to watch unfold. We hope you found these facts intriguing. If you've heard them before or have any thoughts to share, please let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to O World to join us on our journey of discovery.